The city wasn't good for us. We had been dreaming about a place like this for a while now.
This would be the baby's room.
The house, it's been listed for a while. Why hasn't anyone bought it?
There was an incident.
We don't want to know.
We do.
There was a suicide, double homicide. I suppose you're out.
No.
You know I don't mind a little haunting.
We'll take it.
Kind of perfect, right?
This door won't open.
Yeah?
I thought they just had a daughter.
There were two. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. But I guess you folks aren't from around here.
Who are you?
Probably the closest thing you have to a neighbor.
What happened to the toy truck?
I don't know how things just keep disappearing.
You stopped seeking care when you moved.
The move was supposed to fix things. I found the windows in her room nailed shut.
So no one would find out what he was up to.
You okay?
You look like her.
What happened to the boy? He wasn't killed.
He lives in the house next door.
It's this house. I don't feel like I'm alone here.
The wardrobe, there's a reason it is where it is.
What do you want?
Ladies and gentlemen, I myself am hugely honored today to have with me John Gallagher Jr. We're going to be talking about his new film, Abandoned, but I myself, as a huge fan of The Newsroom, know him from that project. John, say hello to everybody.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me today. It's like to be here.
Man, it is absolutely my pleasure to have you here, John. And John, we were just talking about the fact that you've done some incredibly cool stuff in your career, from 10 Cloverfield Lane, Short Term 12, Hush, Peppermint, this cool film that you're doing now called Abandoned, and of course, my personal favorite, The Newsroom.
Yeah.
How are you so lucky, man? How do you get such great projects?
I ask myself that, from time to time as well. No, I think, it's been kind of a long game for me. I got into this so young. I was 15 when I really did my first real acting credit, which was a play off Broadway. And I did like a decade of theater in New York. And that was like, total boot camp for me. I really kind of learned the craft and learned the trade and cut my teeth doing off-Broadway plays and worked my way up to Broadway, and then did some musicals of all things. And then it really wasn't until The Newsroom, started in 2011. I got cast in that show, and then it premiered in 2012. And that opened up a bunch of doors for film and TV that before had been kind of closed to me. And so I didn't have a lot of on-camera experience until it came to doing The Newsroom, which again was like a boot camp, because Aaron Sorkin is such a specific, has such a specific cadence, and there's a rhythm and a feel to his dialogue, and that really was an amazing training ground to get to work with his material. And then it was in the next couple of years that I got really lucky. I fell into a couple films like Short Term 12 and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Did another miniseries for HBO, and HBO has been very kind and loyal to me. They've had me back for several of their other series over the years. My kind of philosophy is kind of simple. I just try to keep busy, and I try to find young emerging filmmakers that are working on exciting projects, and I try to find material that speaks to me. And I try to find collaborators that excite me, people that are excited to work with me, so that we can have a good vibe together on set. And just kind of try to keep an open mind, because it's a weird business. You never know what's going to work and what isn't, and you got to take some chances sometimes. But it's paid off for me. You're absolutely right. I've been super fortunate.
Man, there really is no business like show business, John. That's true.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna push on a couple things you just said there, because I think you've given me some great lanes to work with there. So you said you used to work in Broadway, off Broadway, all that sort of stuff. And I'm a huge theater head. I love theater. I used to do musical theater myself. So let me ask you, what's your favorite musical, and are you a tenor or a bass?
Oh, I feel like I'm closer to tenor. But the one thing that drives me crazy about musicals is that you find yourself having to do that matinee at 2:00 on Saturdays and Sundays, and sometimes it can be tough to get up early and get your voice warm enough by mid-afternoon. I feel like singing before 5 p.m. should be illegal. That's the rule I always want to add into Actors Equity. No singing until after 5 o'clock, folks. Please take pity on us. But yeah, closer to a tenor, I would say. My favorite musical is probably West Side Story. My mom showed me the original film when I was a little boy. And, at the time I was a child of the late 80s. And so I just wanted to watch Die Hard and The Terminator and Predator and, all those action movies. And I didn't have any interest in this. Like, I was like, what, a Romeo and Juliet themed musical set in the 60s, and they're doing ballet in the streets. It didn't interest me. And I remember making fun of it at first when my mom put on the VHS, and by the end of the movie I was sobbing. I was in tears, and it's remained just one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time to this day. And that music just destroys me. Sondheim he was the best in the biz. I mean, I don't know that we'll have a musical theater craftsman that can touch him in another 5 lifetimes.
That's totally fair, and I guess that is true. When you're a jet from your first.
Absolutely, from your
it's
first cigarette to your last dying day.
It's true. It's just true. And then you mentioned working with Sorkin and his specificity, and I'd agree with you, because when you watch something from Aaron Sorkin, because I'm also a huge fan of The Newsroom, and that's why I watched that's why I watched. I like The West Wing. That's why I watched The Newsroom in general, because I like The West Wing. But it's all walk and talk, and it's a different style. And when you mention it being a boot camp, is it because of that whip crack that you have to deal with when you're on a set like that?
No, it's true. And I'll never forget, in the early days of doing The Newsroom, we had a table read where we got together and we read the first script, and we hadn't started filming yet, and we were about to start, and everybody was a little nervous, and Aaron Sorkin was there, and he just said to the cast, he said, I'm going to tell you 2 things. Show up with your lines learned, like learn them in advance. Because sometimes with film and TV, depending on the length of the scene or the amount of dialogue, people will sometimes roll up and learn their lines while they're getting their hair and makeup done, or perhaps learn them on the way to set. And he said, no, make sure they're learned, like show up with it learned as if you were coming to do a play, have it totally memorized. And then the only other thing he said was, and just pick up your cues, like keep it fast, keep it snappy, because that's the way his stuff works. He sets all of his scenes in kind of pressure cooker scenarios where the characters don't have a lot of time. So they'll be having these really intense conversations, and sometimes romantic moments, or, life and death moments, or funny moments, or misunderstandings. It'll all be happening while some other deadline is kind of looming right around the corner. And so the characters are always in a hurry. Nobody has the luxury of time in an Aaron Sorkin scene. And so you do have to pick it up and make it clippy, because that's kind of where it wants to live. It doesn't want to be slow. It doesn't want to be too contemplative, because all of his characters also are whip smart, intellectuals with an endless gift of gab. So you do have to kind of keep it going. So those 2 things, I'll never forget them. And I employ them nowadays. I'll find myself, going to do something that isn't Aaron Sorkin, but I'll still be like, okay, I want to show up with my lines really learned, and I just want to pick up my cues and not get too muddy or murky or in my head about it.
I like that. Now let's talk about this new project, Abandoned.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here for. It is categorized as a horror movie, and it's supposed to come out tomorrow.
That's right. It's out in theaters tomorrow, and then on demand the following week.
Cool. Can you talk a little bit about the film and working with Spencer Squire?
Absolutely. So Abandon is it's a, a horror thriller drama, in a way, about a young couple, Alex and Sarah, played by myself and the wonderful Emma Roberts. They have a newborn baby. They've been living in the city. They've been having some kind of unnamed marital issues. And so my character is a veterinarian, decides both for his work and for the family's well-being that it's a good idea to move out to the country. And they find a great deal on an old farmhouse that's been abandoned for many years, unable to be sold. And, lo and behold, it turns out it hasn't been able to be sold because there's kind of a dark, violent history to the house, very classic haunted house setup. But the young couple decides to roll the dice and move in anyway. And it isn't long before it becomes apparent that there might be some kind of malevolent history or force in the house that is perhaps targeting Sarah and their young child, Liam. So that's Abandoned, and people can see it starting on demand tomorrow, June 17th. And working with Spencer was great. Spencer Squire, it's his first feature film, and he took a script and kind of reworked it and tweaked it and made it his own. And he really sold me on it, his directing abilities, when he pitched it to me, and he said, the references that he was drawing from were films like Roman Polanski's horror movies, like Rosemary's Baby, or like John Carpenter's 70s and 80s work. He cited Christine and Halloween a lot, and that's my jam. I mean, I love, Carpenter is one of my heroes and one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. So once he started talking about John Carpenter as a main reference point, I was sold. And I love working with younger emerging filmmakers because everybody's got to start somewhere, and I always find it exciting to be on film sets with younger filmmakers who are a little bit newer to the game, because they just tend to be more excited about the process, about making movies. And as we get older, we all naturally get a little bit rough around the edges and jaded, and I like working with people that kind of try to bring me out of that headspace and try to remind me of why it's magical to make movies.
That's really true. We do get jaded as we get older.
Yeah.
God, if that isn't true. I love that you said that. I love that you said that working with younger directors is something that you really strive for, because a lot of your really, like, your best stuff has come from working and taking these chances with these young directors. And
totally true. Yeah.
I think that you're right. There's more of a collaboration because there's less ego involved.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just exciting because it's like, there's a purity to it, like I did, Destin Cretton's second feature, Short Term 12. Dan Trachtenberg had not done a feature film when we did 10 Cloverfield Lane together. And I worked with Mike Flanagan before he got into the TV world of Netflix on his, I think, third full feature film. And they're young filmmakers that are getting going, and they're hungry. They have something to prove. It's like when you hear like a great rock band that's on their second record, and they're still swinging for the fences to try and get out of the small clubs and into the bigger theaters. It has that same kind of energy to it, and there's an enjoyment to the process that, I don't want to say it's not there when you're working with more seasoned filmmakers. It truly is a lot of the time, but it's just kind of exciting. It reminds you of why you got into it in the first place when you're working with emerging filmmakers.
I love that. Let's talk about some of your inspirations, people in your business, in the business that you look to as inspirations that help you, guide you, and make you do what you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny because, I did a play in 2016 on Broadway with Michael Shannon, and he's always been, from my early 20s, when I first started seeing him show up in movies and plays in New York City, that was an actor that I looked to and just thought, oh my gosh, that guy's got a cool career. He's able to do film and television and theater, and he has a little theater company in Chicago, and he goes home and directs plays there and does plays in a little black box theater for 50 people. He is an actor's actor. He does it for the love of it and for no other reason, and that's someone I really admire. And he's become a pal, so I can, reach out to him if I have, if I need advice on something. Chris Messina is a good buddy of mine. I've always looked up to him. I just did a movie with him, and he's a great actor and a great guy. I mean, I basically signed with my agent when I was 19 years old because she represented Sam Rockwell, John Slattery, and Richard Jenkins, and they were three of my favorite actors. And so I just said, well, if I can work with their agent, because I look at their careers and the longevity and the staying power and the love of acting. I mean, Sam and Richard and John, they've all kind of come into their own through the years, but it wasn't about like movie stardom. It was about like good work, doing the good work and sticking around long enough to kind of get appreciated. That's always kind of what I've been interested in is longevity, staying power, and trying to do interesting work that speaks to you.
I love that because Richard Jenkins is one of those guys who's been around so long that we all appreciate him, and he's literally one of the finest character actors of the 21st century.
Incredible. You're absolutely right. And he's still doing incredible work.
Mm-hmm. So John Slattery, obviously from Mad Men, most famously excellent character actor as well, and then Sam Rockwell is is goated. He's fantastic.
100%. And I've been lucky enough now that I've worked with all three of them. I did a play with John Slattery, and Richard Jenkins played my dad in a miniseries. I did a film with Sam a few years back. Those guys are my heroes.
I would love Richard Jenkins to play my dad, first of all.
Great. I mean, I got so lucky. I did this miniseries where he played my dad and Fran McDormand was my mom. And I mean, I was just in heaven on set the whole time.
You can't beat that. I could never pull that off because I'm too tan, but
right.
But I love that. Now, let me ask you, this is a fun question that I like to ask every guest, that if you're stuck, if you could only watch 2 films for the rest of your life, what 2 and why? And this is the hardest question I'm going to ask you all day.
Okay. So, Goodfellas just popped into my mind. Definitely Goodfellas is on the list because when that movie is on, I drop everything. If that's on, it doesn't matter if I'm in the first 5 minutes or the last 5 minutes. Every single solitary second of that film is fully engaging. It's a perfect movie. I never get tired of it. And then, I guess the other one that just jumped into my mind for some reason, which is kind of in the same vein, same vernacular, is Heat by Michael Mann's Heat, because I just think that's another, it's almost 3 hours long. It's completely engaging, interesting acting, great performances, amazing editing, action sequences, high stakes. I could live off of those 2.
You didn't even mention the best part of Heat. The sound design is just
the sound design. Oh my god! I saw a screening of it. I live pretty close to the Brooklyn Academy of Music in Brooklyn, and they do a lot of retrospectives. And they did one year where it was all John Carpenter movies, and I bought tickets to all of them. And they did a Michael Mann retrospective one year, and I went and saw an old, I think it was a 35 millimeter print of Heat in the theater, and the shootout was, and this was an old print. And the sound of the shootout was unbelievable. I mean, it was like people were covering their ears. Like you felt like you were in the middle of downtown LA during this insane bank heist. It was incredible.
I've been doing I'm from LA and I don't live there anymore, but I'm from there. I've been in downtown LA during a shootout. That's exactly what it sounds like. And I'll tell you, it's the best gunshots ever recorded on film.
Oh yeah,
in Heat. Great choice, man. I love Michael Mann, and I love that you love Carpenter, because some of my favorite stuff is definitely like The Thing, and I love They Live. Those are 2 of my favorite movies. So
They Live's amazing too. Such an underappreciated masterpiece. Both of those movies are amazing.
I could literally nerd out with movies, with you all day, my man. And you're killing it.
Me too.
I love film, and ever since I was 8 years old, my mom showing me Hitchcock.
Yeah, me too. I mean, really, my parents showed me movies. It's the whole reason you can trace it all back to that for me. It's the whole reason I became an actor.
And you're killing it, man. Your talents are shining through on all your projects. And I think, frankly, you're one of my favorite character actors working. So when I got the chance to talk to you, I was like, yes, please. I will do this. Oh, man.
Well, I really appreciate it. That means a lot to me, honestly.
Dude, it's not a problem. Like I said, I'm super excited for the film to come out and for people to enjoy it, and for you to get to work with a guy like Michael Shannon. I know it means a lot to you, but it also is nice for a guy like me who's a fan to see, hey, my guy's doing some work now. He's a big boys now.
Yeah, totally.
Emma Roberts is no slouch either.
No, I mean, Emma's amazing. I mean, she's been doing this forever. I loved working with her. She's a total pro. She's really funny. I mean, she's just had me cracking up all day. Like, she's secretly has this kind of like amazing kind of barbed sense of humor. She kept me laughing the whole time we were filming.
I think you have to have that to have Eric Roberts as your dad.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to have that, or else you're not going to last very long in that house.
Totally. No, totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
think
look at,
so.
well, man, you look at his early performances. I just saw Runaway Train for the first time a few months
Oh,
ago.
yes, great.
Man,
It's a great
it's a
movie.
badass movie.
It is. It really is a badass movie. And that's the perfect word for it. It is badass. I love that, man. It's been my pleasure talking to you. Just to sign you off, I got two things. You already gave us the synopsis for the film, but give us the elevator pitch. You're telling somebody to watch it. Yes.
Okay, it starts off, you think you're watching like a family drama about a couple in a crisis, and then you realize you're watching a haunted house movie at the same time. And I love those two genres. Wouldn't it be cool to jam them together? I think that's Abandoned at its core.
That's perfect. And then if people want to reach out and harass you online, where can they do that?
They can do it on Twitter at John Gallagher Jr. and also on Instagram at John Gallagher Jr. Junior on Instagram is spelled out Junior because there was already a John Gallagher Jr. when I signed up.
Perfect. John Gallagher Jr., ladies and gentlemen, it's been my absolute pleasure to have him today. Thank you so much, buddy, for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem, man. It's really early in the morning here, so I got up just so I could talk to you, my guy.
Oh, bless you, man. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.